Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of For the Love of Film, the series where I talk to different people about their love of film and what sparked that love in the first place. And today I am joined by Aayush Sharma. Aayush, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you so much, Aaron. So, my name is Aayush Sharma, and I'm an entertainment journalist. I've been doing this for the last 8 years now. And I love movies. Just like Aaron, I love movies. I love watching them. I love analyzing them, reviewing them. So, yeah,
Hmm.
it's a part of my life that I love the most. So, yeah, that's the introduction I can give right now.
No, that's great to hear. I didn't realize you've been doing it for 8 years. That's about as long as I've been doing YouTube. So, yeah, that's impressive that we've been going that long. So the first question I'm going to ask, and again, I use this to kind of judge the
Yes.
ground with everybody that I have on this series, is what is the most recent film that you've seen that you absolutely loved? It can be an old release, it can be a new release, but what's the most recent thing you've seen?
I think the recent movie that I absolutely loved was none other than Oppenheimer. I think, it
Mm,
connected to me on a personal level because
mm,
I believe sometimes, we do things without thinking about the consequences or without thinking, how it will affect us or people around us.
mm,
That's what happened with Oppenheimer. He got so consumed by doing a thing
yeah.
for himself and his country that he didn't realize what's going to happen next until
Mm,
Hiroshima and Nagasaki happened. So
yeah.
just like that, we do things, and when we get to know what were the consequences and how it affected people, we try to minimize the effects.
Mm,
And we try many things. So apart, so that was one of the reasons that I loved the movie, because it resonated with the people, I think, with me and with people around me, because
mm,
that's what happens in real life. Apart from that, the storytelling, the
mm,
acting, the cinematography, I think the cinematography was beautiful. That
mm,
entire the entire movie was shot really beautifully. And that haunting background score
mm,
uh was, that was like cherry on the cake. It was just amazing. And
mm.
I realized, you saw the movie two times, right?
Yeah.
Because it stopped in the middle for the first time.
Yeah, it wasn't through choice, but the cinema that I saw it at, so this was literally the opening weekend. I saw it on the Saturday. I booked it like a couple days in advance. I was really excited. And right as they were about to test the Trinity experiment,
Oh,
the screen went off, alarms started going off, and we were like, is this part of the film? I don't know. And then everyone slowly started getting up because the worst part was, even though the screen was off, you could still hear what was going on in the film.
oh,
So you were hearing all these, like, the score just building up. You could hear all these people talking, and it's like, I'm missing out on, like, the key part of the film. So because I was so excited to see it, I was like, no, I'm. Luckily, I got a refund, which was good. But I was just like,
nice.
I'm not. I want to see how this ends. But part of me was like, do I want to sit through the first 2 hours again? But I went and watched it the day immediately after because there were still some seats available at a different cinema, and I managed.
Yeah.
I watched about 5 hours worth of Oppenheimer in one week in one weekend. Um, but I will admit, seeing it 1.5 times was actually kind of helpful because on that second viewing, the stuff in the first half, you pick
Hmm.
up on a lot of very minor details that just
Yeah.
completely went over my head um, on the first viewing. I think 1.5 viewings is enough because I'm still like trying to take in everything, and that was only like a couple weeks ago. Um, but yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer is currently my favorite film of the year. Um,
Yes.
because I mean, there have been some great films this year, but Across the Spider Verse was currently at the top, and then Oppenheimer came out, and I'm like, no, nothing's probably going to beat that for a long time. And if anything does beat Oppenheimer, I'll be very surprised. Like, there's only a couple films I can think of, like Killers of the Flower Moon or David Fincher's new film, that are like have the
The
potential to
killer.
beat it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, at the moment, Oppenheimer's like solidified, and it's going to take.
Yes.
It's gonna be very hard to
It's,
to shift that.
it's going to take a lot to to go above Oppenheimer this year, especially this year.
Yeah. Also, as someone who's fascinated with like the filmmaking aspect, the day after I saw it, in there's this company called Faber. They published the script in a book, and I bought it because I was like, I just want to know how Christopher Nolan wrote this because I physically can't wrap my head around it. And reading the script, how he wrote it, it's just baffling. Like I don't know where. If I was in his shoe, I wouldn't know where to start because the fact that it's all written in the first person, the fact that the man baffles me sometimes. I love his movies, but
I think that's the beauty of Christopher Nolan, because he chooses subjects that any other director wouldn't even dare to touch, because I don't think that most of the world, I think 90% of the world didn't know about J. Robert Oppenheimer until this movie. And some of them, if you were into physics a lot, and you were guys, okay, you will know about him because he made the first atomic bomb and everything else. But I, as someone who doesn't come from the physics background, I didn't know. I didn't even go and search on Google that who made the first atomic bomb. After it was announced that Oppenheimer, this was a real person, and he created the first atomic bomb, then the curiosity happens. And then the best thing, I think the best thing about the movie was the last 40 minutes, because they didn't stop at the Trinity test, because Christopher Nolan didn't want to show like glamorize him, but also didn't want to lose out any ends. He wanted to talk about everything that happened with that man. So that was the thing that baffled me, and it was like very amazing to see.
No, I totally agree, because when I had that unfortunate screening that cut halfway through, I ended up having to check with multiple people that the both of us know on Twitter. I was like, please someone tell me that the Trinity test is the end of the film, and everyone was like, no, there's still an hour left. And I was like, God damn it, I've still got an hour. So moving on from Oppenheimer, I want to delve into your career a little bit and just kind of get to know how you started and all that. And just the first question I have on that is, how did you get into film criticism in the first place?
Okay, so it was literally by accident. So I was a commerce student. So in India, you have like 3 streams to choose. There's like commerce, science, and humanities, which is arts. So if you are choosing arts, then you are not the part of the society. It's like people have made such assumptions about it. So I was a commerce student. Which was all about mathematics and economics. But I knew that I was pathetic at those things. I couldn't make a career in that part of the profession and everything. So I always wanted to do something creative. That was the time I was introduced to Hollywood movies. So in India, we got introduced to Hollywood movies pretty late, because sometimes even the big movies would not even release in India, and even if they were getting a release date, it was like 6 months after the initial release date. So it was pretty much problematic for us to watch a Hollywood movie, even if you want to see it. So I started seeing them, and I always had the flair of writing. So I started my blog. It was called Movies Express at that time. It was like, I think 2012 or 13, I started writing. And after 3 or 4 months of writing, I started to getting some traction there. I was getting like 1,000 views, 1,200 views, 1,500 views. So that was an achievement for me. So I was like, okay, I can make a career in this. So I enrolled myself after doing my graduation. I enrolled myself in a journalism course that was for 2 years. So I studied like the basics of the journalistic writing, how to frame things, how to write a journalistic way, and like editing and everything like that. So before even finishing my course, I actually got my first job in the entertainment world, and I started writing about movies. I started writing about TV shows. At that time, even I was writing about music as well. So that's how my career started, and I'm lucky. I'm actually lucky. I'm one of the few ones, who gets to do
Mm,
what I actually love to do. So I've
mm,
been lucky. I've been lucky all my life, and I think the biggest thing that happened with me in over these years uh was last year when I attended the London Film Festival. Actually, it
mm,
changed everything for me because
mm,
first I was flying
mm.
solo in an international trip for an Indian boy
Yeah.
who is who is, I mean, who has not turned 30. So it
Mm,
was a big thing. And secondly, I got to know you guys, the
mm,
critics, the critics fraternity from the UK, and I got to know, I think, a lot of aspects about the how you
mm,
write about movies, because from here, from India, you get a perspective, but when you
mm,
meet other people, you get other perspectives as well.
mm,
If I am watching a movie through one lens, I think you are watching a movie through a different lens, and you
mm,
get to know a lot of things. So apart from my career, I think last year was pretty
mm,
crucial for me because I got to know a lot of things about movie criticism from you guys, from
mm,
from the people that we know both. So
mm.
that was a great thing, and that's how my career has been going right now.
Cool. That's really fascinating to hear, and I'm presuming as well it's been helpful from your perspective because in the group there's not just there's not just people from one set like line
Yes.
of film criticism. Like there's me where I do my stuff on YouTube. Then the
Yes.
majority of other people are writers. So I guess that's kind of been. I mean, from your perspective, that must be quite fascinating as well.
Yes, absolutely, quite fascinating. And because from the place that I come from India, where uh, judging or reviewing
Mm,
Hollywood movies is not particularly so. I mean, it's not easy for us because we don't get screenings,
yeah.
we don't get much screeners. You have
Mm,
to, I mean, email the PRs like 20 to 25 times to even
yeah.
get a reply.
Yeah.
So that's why it is pretty much it is still pretty much problematic. Even
Mm,
now, some movies do come here. Some stars do come here. Like Netflix movies do have screenings in Mumbai or everything. But where I
yeah.
live, it's like approximately 1,000 miles away from where I live. So
Mm,
even for me, that is also problematic because it's not like you're telling me on Friday night, okay, we are having a screening tomorrow morning.
yeah.
That's not feasible for me to just
Mm,
fly around there because the tickets are expensive, and there are a
mm,
lot of other problems as well. So that's why I'm not boasting about my, but I'm proud that the
mm,
kind of connections that I've made over the years with the Netflix people, with all
mm,
the main distributors. Yes, I am still trying to do just like you guys or the
mm,
people in the group do, like
yeah.
they get the multimedia screenings invite and this
Mm,
and this. So that's why I keep on telling myself that if I want to have a career in Hollywood, I mean,
mm,
more criticism or do anything like that, I think I need to go to the UK or the US. I think that's where the main things are happening right now. In India, it will
mm.
take like 10 to 15 years.
Yeah. I mean that I think that's fascinating in itself. The fact that it's not necessarily something in India that is like that not necessarily popular. Popular is not the right word, but like um well known about, and the fact that you're just persevering and going for it and still keep going. I think that's something that's really respectable, and I think really something that I mean I have to commend you for in that sense because even though I personally don't get screeners because I still don't know how that whole thing works, and I keep asking multiple people like, how do you get screeners? Um, but I do agree with you. It is something that, and again, this is just there is something thematically just wrong about this anyway. But the fact that it's easier for someone like me in this country, it's technically on my doorstep, and then people like you, something like that needs to change. And the fact that you are actually going out of your way to try and get the fact that you've heard from people like Netflix, I think is really
Mhm.
it's a step in the right direction. And I think it's definitely quite interesting to see how you're trying to make that work for yourself. So in that same context as well, and considering your background, is there a specific way you approach film criticism and how you write about films and how you look at them?
So, when I first, started writing about movies. So in India, whenever you start your journalistic career, I don't know if it happens in the UK or
Mm,
not. I was taught to write in a way that was very simple. The thing I was told at my first job
mm,
when I just started writing about movies, I need to keep in mind that the reader knows nothing,
yeah.
and I have to give him or her all the information.
Mm,
So as the I was writing in that way, and it was going good. But as the time passed, I realized that the reader is not as dumb as I was made to
mm,
believe. They are also going to details. They are
mm,
also searching on Google. They are also knowing about different perspectives about movie making, filmmaking, or
mm,
how to tell a story. So I realized that I have to change something in my writing. So I
mm,
actually started to give some insights in my pieces that many people were not giving.
mm,
I'm not talking about the traditional Hollywood houses, just like
yeah.
any other media outlet, because this is what they do. But in India, that was not happening. So I
Mm,
started giving them insights that were not available in the Indian markets. So that
mm,
was something that I changed. And
mm,
apart from that, I started to write, I think, in a casual manner, because uh, a
mm,
layman, a person, just wants to read something that resonates with him.
mm,
He or she doesn't want to read everything in a journalistic way. They want
yeah.
to see things where they can say, okay, yeah, that's how I feel about this thing or
Mm,
that thing. And so I started writing engaging stuff.
mm,
But it's not easy, because just like you, Aaron, if you are doing something on YouTube, you are
mm,
recording something, and you say that, okay, this might be the best episode or best recording that I
mm,
have ever done, or I can feel that this is the best that I have written.
mm,
But people don't engage to that.
yeah.
And but that's, I think, that's just the nature of how it all works in this entertainment industry or the
Mm,
journalism field. I just started to make a little changes and be a little more detailed about
mm,
certain things. So that's something that's something how I approach now.
mm,
And yeah, basically you have to change with the time, because
mm,
if you don't, because the readers are changing with the time, whether they are reading books, whether they are reading opinion pieces, everything, they are changing with the time. And with this AI thing coming, then people are already going berserk.
yeah. No, I can. With everything you've pretty much just said, you've hit the nail on the head in every aspect, from especially from my perspective as well, because this is something I mentioned in my last episode with Reese. I've only recently got into writing properly because of, like I said before, I've been doing YouTube mostly as my main thing, and then writing has only recently kicked in the last few months. But when we were both speaking about writing, funnily enough, that aspect that you've mentioned, which is like how most people are kind of taught to write in
Mm.
simplifying it and dumbing it down for the general audience. Me and Reese just always, because again, it's probably because we're doing it because we just want to do it and we're not getting paid to write and we're just doing it as a
Yes.
hobby. We're just writing however we want to write. And I think, especially with what everything you've just said, I do think in some regards that is the best way to tackle it, because there is something you kind of realize very quickly, whether it's journalism or whether it's even me doing my YouTube videos or anything film related, is that you'll realize very quickly that you're trying to cater to that general audience, but the people that are watching your stuff are the people that are interested in that thing in the first place.
Mm.
Like, pretty much with what you said, that there are times where I've spent hours pouring everything into one specific video, and I've made it and I'm like, I am so happy with this. The video
Mm.
I'm the most proudest of, and it gets like 12 views, and then a video that I don't try that Hardly With gets like 1.3 thousand, and I'm like, I don't get that. But that seems to be the general case. There will be videos and even sometimes other things that I pour my heart and soul into, and they don't get the reception you expect. And then there's like my most viewed video on my YouTube channel, or at least it was for a very long time. It's got 16,000, and it's for this review called. It's for a film in 2017 called Bottom of the World, and it's this film that was really bad. I didn't think much of it. I just reviewed it for the sake of reviewing it, and then just kind of forgot about it afterwards. But then the views blew up, and even to this day, I still get comments saying, "Actually, you didn't understand the film because it's actually really." And I'm like, "Mate, I already forgot about the film like a week after seeing it, so I'm not even going to respond to your comment." But I mean, from first-hand experience, I completely understand everything you've just said. So
even I think even for me, so I the first review I think that I wrote was in 2019, and there was a movie. It was a Hindi movie at that time. I was doing Bollywood as well, Indian cinema as well. So it was a pathetic movie, if I can say that. It was a pathetic movie, and I actually gave it 1 star. And I think there was no hype around that movie. But suddenly, I think 2 weeks after the movie that released, and the piece had gotten out,
yeah,
it was for like 4 straight weeks. It was the most read thing on the entire website, and I
yeah,
was like, why are people even reading about it when people are not even going to see the movie,
yeah.
and they don't even know about it, but people are still reading it. I was like, okay, this also happens.
Yeah, it's something that just it happens too often, but it just baffles me every time. Like outside of that one review, I think like my top 10 most viewed videos, there's like 3 in there that are like for these absolutely terrible films that I've never given a second thought to, and I'm like, why are people so obsessed with that? And it just baffles me, but it's the way the world works. And
Yeah.
I just don't. There's a part of me where I'm just like, watch the stuff that I actually tried with. Watch the stuff that I actually put effort into. That being said, there are even some reviews where I get comments that are just baffling. Like I did a review for. It's going off on a tangent now. I did a review for Spider-Man Far From Home, the one with Mysterio in it, and I got like 2 comments from 2 different people. One saying your voice is really good to go to sleep to, and then another one. There was another comment that was just really out of like no context. It just said, "What did it say?" It said, "Does anyone know what's for dinner tonight? I think it's beans." And I like both of them confused the hell out of me. And I don't think the comments are on there anymore because I think the people deleted them. But yeah, the joys of having a YouTube channel. And funnily enough, going off of what you just said about writing about Hindi films and films that are made in India, I was interested to ask as well, and this can apply to both. What elements specifically do you consider when recommending or writing about a film? Like, do you look at the cinematography, the acting, and does that change when you're looking at Hollywood films as opposed to Hindi films, or does it mostly stay the same?
So, see, actually, it changes a lot because not no offense to Bollywood or Indian cinema,
Hmm.
but if you start watching Indian cinema continuously, and if you start watching every other movie, I'm not saying just the selective ones. If you start watching them continuously and every movie, you'll realize that the story is pretty much the similar.
Yeah.
That a boy meets a girl. Boy is not that rich, the girl is rich. In the end, they fall in love, and this is what happens generally in Indian cinema. But things are changing. There are directors, there are new age directors that are coming and making good films. But Hollywood is pretty much different. I think Hollywood is. I will say that Hollywood is still 25 years ahead of the Indian film industry.
Yeah.
They are making movies, they are making they are telling stories that we cannot even think of, or we cannot even afford because of the money. Because if you would have seen the recent thing that happened with Adipurush, if you know about Adipurush, uh, there was an Indian movie. It was scheduled to have a screening of world premiere at Tribeca this year, but it was pulled out. It was pulled out because the reactions that came to the trailers and to the visual effects were terrible. So they had to pull out the movie from Tribeca and rework on the visual effects. And also we continue to garner money, but we are not putting enough money in these aspects like visual effects and all. And when you talk about elements, so a lot of things actually, but the main is still the storytelling part. As a movie critic or a movie journalist or a TV journalist, entertainment journalist, it's pretty important to see how the story is told. You can love a movie like Silence, which was like storytelling at its best. And then you can also like a movie like John Wick, which was slam bang total action with minimal story, but it has something that keeps you hooked to the screen. But when you come to India, when you come to Indian movies, there will be like 1 or 2 movies in 15 to 20 movies where you'll see that okay, that was something worth the wait, that we were waiting for something like that. So parameters change, because then in India you talk about the songs, you talk about the dance numbers, everything, which is not yet a big part of Hollywood. You don't write about songs, you don't write about the dance numbers. So a lot of things change, but it's all about how it is presented on the screen, and if as a viewer I'm getting hooked to that or not. So that's really important for me. Another thing that has become really important for me nowadays is the editing part. I think the editing is one of the most important things. I think in a movie or a TV show, movies like I have seen, like movies like the Snowman or the Alien Covenant were actually ruined by bad editing. And when I saw them, I was like, okay, the storytelling is still okay, but the way the movie has been edited, it has ruined the experience for me. So right now, these are the two things that I actually take care about in while writing. So I mean, yes, things change when I'm reviewing an Indian TV show or a movie, but I have to have keen eye when I'm watching a Hollywood movie, because they're just like if you are writing about or talking about Oppenheimer, you just cannot give a straight review that is good, okay, blah blah blah, that's it. No, you have to talk about certain things, what happened, why this movie works, why this movie, if someone is saying that this movie does not work, okay, why it doesn't work for you. So that's how things have to be changed when you are reviewing a Hollywood movie or an Indian movie. Just like if you have seen RRR, have you seen RRR?
Yeah, no, I saw it last year. Yeah,
You saw it. So I think the West, like the UK, US were pretty fond of that movie, and they just blew it out of the park, just like what a brilliant movie. If you see Indian reviews, it actually got average reviews. It was an average movie in India, but when it went to UK, US, or any other market, it blew. People were dancing in the theaters and everything. And so sometimes geographical things also changes, because for me one movie can be average, you can see and you will say that okay, no, that movie works for me. So things change geographically as well. But as you say, when you talk about elements, so yes, a lot of changes have to be made when you are reviewing a Bollywood movie and then a Hollywood movie.
No, it's interesting you say that about RRR, because even as someone from the UK, it did seem a bit odd, because I'm like, Indian cinema's been around for ages. How comes RRR is the one exception that everyone's going nuts about? But even that seems to happen every now and then. It seems to be a thing that people just latch onto. For example, this is a slightly different example, but like when Parasite was released in 2019, like it's all of a sudden everyone gave a crap about Korean cinema, and I'm like, it's been there for ages. Where's everyone been all this time? And the same thing applies to RRR in the sense that, like, okay, now everyone is suddenly paying attention. It's been there forever, but okay, I guess you're now starting to pay attention.
I
Um,
mean, I mean, we got our first Oscar nomination in 2001 for Lagan.
mm,
It went to the Oscars. It was nominated in the foreign language category,
mm,
and but obviously the movie lost. But I think it in the Indian industry also did a lot of uh, bad things, because
mm,
if a movie like Lagan is being made and I mean, it's getting the recognition in the entire world. People should have tried to make such movies,
mm,
more such movies, so that a world gets to know it. It has taken what, like 21 years,
mm,
21 years to get another Indian movie nominated at the Oscars,
mm.
and that too in the best original song,
Yeah.
not in the foreign language category.
Mm,
And that was one of the most saddest decisions made from the Indian government and the
mm,
Indian film industry, that they did not send RRR to the foreign
mm.
language, because we genuinely had a chance there. We
Yeah.
could have won, because the way the momentum was shifting towards
Mm,
RRR, it could have given us our first
mm.
victory.
Yeah. I I think even when the before the Oscar nominations happened, I was like, so there were like three films. I was like, oh, they're definitely going to be in Best International Film,
Yeah.
and two of them didn't end up being there. One of them being RRR, the other one being Decision to Leave, and I was
Yes.
like, how? I think RRR baffled me the most because I was like, that's the film everyone was like talking about at the back end of last year. So the fact that it wasn't even considered, but yet the song was nominated, just it, I don't get it. I genuinely don't understand it. So I want to get to know your taste in film a little bit more, and this is one that I ask everybody that comes on this series. And what is the first film, if you can remember what it is, that first sparked your love for film in the first place?
I think the first film that I actually watched inside a theater, I was in class, I think fifth or sixth, I think in grade 5 or 6. So my result was very good, so my parents were really happy with me, and they just uh,
Mm,
they just told me, okay, now we can go and watch a movie. So it was like, so it was not a Hollywood film, because that was it was not, they were not accessible at that time. So the
mm,
movie that actually sparked my love for cinema was Lagan. Actually, it was
okay.
released in 2001, and the reason why it made me, love cinema so much is because in
Mm,
India, prior to Lagan, all the movies that were made were too commercial and had similar storylines. So
yeah.
you were getting the same thing, and you were like, okay, I saw that in the other movie as well, on television and everything else. But however, Lagan being a commercial movie, because it
Mm,
had one of the biggest stars of Indian cinema at that time,
mm,
Amir Khan, and it was a commercial movie, but the movie had such a phenomenal storyline that
mm,
had never been told in Indian cinema. I mean, the story was about a village in India, and at that time the Britishers were ruling the India,
mm,
and when the Britishers were got too angry with the Indian villagers, so they just challenged them to a game of cricket,
mm,
and they said that if the Indian people can beat us, they will leave the village, and they will go to any other place. So first of all, that story was pretty unconventional for Indian cinema at
mm,
the time, and we had never seen anything like that. Then the other thing, the way the story was told, because it was emotional. Yes, it was
mm,
emotional, but the things were just not told in an emotional way. It was like, okay, you seem to get a clash between egos. You seem to
mm,
see, what is going right, what is going wrong, and Indian also betraying his Indian friends, and everything is like mixed up, which
mm,
was not at all regular for Indian
mm,
cinema. It was all about love stories. It was all about rather action stories, or songs, dance numbers, everything like that.
Mm.
But that was something that changed the landscape of Indian cinema, and people actually tried making unconventional movies like that. And I
Mm.
was like, okay, wow, so the movies can be made like that
Mm.
as well. And since then, it has never stopped. And then again, my world changed when I got introduced to Hollywood movies like The Godfather or
Mm.
Goodfellas and everything. So I think that when I got to know about Hollywood or world cinema, I think that changed a lot of things for me, and that
Mm.
got me interested into following cinema even more. And I got to
Mm.
know about, okay, different perspectives, okay, now how lighting works, how cinematography works, how other elements of the movie makes it a complete package, and you
Yeah.
cannot just get one out of them and
Mm.
make a complete movie. No, you have to have them all, and then a movie or a TV show can be successful. So that was the first film. Lagan was the first film that made
Mm.
me love cinema. And when we talk about English movies or the Hollywood movies, then it was The Godfather.
Going off what you just said, is have you noticed, especially like growing up with Indian cinema and going into Hollywood, have you noticed there be like certain elements from one starting to appear in the other, and have you noticed like a vice versa?
Yeah, I think so Indian movies, when we talk about Indian movies, so Indian movies do take a lot of inspirations
Mm.
from Hollywood, and you could see that inspiration in many movies. So when there was, I think there was a horror movie. It was so it came around in 2016 or 2017.
Mm.
And when I was watching that movie, I could realize that, okay, it is same as what I saw in The Conjuring.
Mm.
Some same scenes, certain dialogues were even same.
Mm.
In Hindi, you can just make it out. Okay, that was
Yeah.
something that like Vera Farmiga said in that scene, and this is what she's saying. So
Yeah.
Indian movies do take a lot of inspiration from world cinema or Hollywood particularly. So yeah,
Mm.
you can see a lot of things happening, and you'd realize that, okay, that is something similar. And even not just, I'll say, in cinema, even in the music, you
Yeah.
can you can see that, okay, that is a part of music that I just heard in an English song or a Spanish song, and this
Mm.
is now has been made into India. So yes, there are a lot of times when we have realized that, yes, this movie or this TV show has been inspired from the West or Eastern part of the world.
Okay. Yeah, that's quite interesting. Because whenever I'm a massive advocate for films not in the English language. So whenever I watch films from various different countries, I'm always intrigued to see like what elements have they taken from British or Hollywood films and vice versa, because they're especially with like Indian cinema, French cinema, all these different other countries that have like their own unique
Yeah.
specific look and feel to their films. There's still elements that you're going to find in there that is like, I remember seeing that in this film that was made like back in the 40s in America, and I just find that whole thing fascinating. Just looking at different films and filmmakers from around the world and seeing what inspired them in the first place.
Mhm.
And half the time it's films you wouldn't even think about. I can't think of a specific example, but I know there are like, I think Christopher Nolan in an interview said that like there was this French film from the 50s that subconsciously inspired Inception, but when he was making Inception, it didn't even occur to him. It was only when
Yeah.
someone pointed it out afterwards. He was like, "Oh yes, no, it does actually bear a lot of similarities." Can't for the life of me remember what the name of the film was, but it's just interesting seeing that like that subconsciously made him, inspired him to do certain things for that film or other films that have been made, but it didn't even he didn't even think about it at the time.
I think that happened in so there was a movie called Gangs of Wasipur. So it was like
Mm,
it appeared in like two parts, and both the parts were like amazing. And BBC or Rolling Stone and everyone,
mm,
every outlet has given it a distinction of one of the greatest movies of this generation. So
mm,
when I was watching watching that movie, and when I revisited both the parts, I
mm.
realized that it is like a Hollywood movie or
Yeah.
a Martin Scorsese movie that talks about two separate gangs,
Mm,
uh, and they are fighting against each other, and they want to take a part of the city or
yeah.
something else, that they want to be the kings of that place. So
Mm,
this is the kind of things. And even the director, his name is Anurag Kashyap, he
mm,
said that when I was watching the movie, I quickly realized that some of the elements were taken from a movie like Goodfellas or something,
mm,
because you realize that okay, these are two gangs fighting against each other for a place or for something that they
mm,
clearly want. So sometimes subconsciously, just like you said, you are writing a movie and then you realize that okay,
mm,
some things that has been taken from this and this, or the iconic directors that have been
mm.
making movies for a long long time.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a case. And again, even some of the most obscurest influences, like you'll watch one film one day, and then you hear like an interview, and it's like I would have not thought that would be inspired by that. And it's just
Yes.
seeing how all these things work. It's part of the thing that fascinates me about cinema in the first place. It's especially considering we're at a point now where very few ideas are like truly original. So
Yes.
seeing what was inspired, what the long list of things that inspired that one singular
Yes.
film, I just find really fascinating. So on my channel, I like to keep things mostly positive and upbeat about film, but this is a question that I throw to everybody because it's a fun question and I like hearing what different answers I get. What is the worst film you've ever seen?
Worst film. Okay. There are a lot of Indian movies that I've seen that probably are worst. But I think an English movie a Hollywood
Mm.
movie that I saw, that was Cowboys versus it. I don't know. It was Cowboys and Aliens or Cowboys versus Aliens. I don't know. It was
I think
I
it's
read
Cowboys versus Alien. This the one with Daniel
Cowboys.
Craig in it, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
Daniel Craig, Harrison Ford, and you're like, the trailers were like, okay, I
Mm,
want to see the movie in a theater. So me and my brother, we went to the
mm,
theater, and I was like, we were pretty much like looking forward to it. And the entire movie took place. The
mm.
aliens came in the last 15 minutes of the movie,
Oh wow.
and nothing happened in the entire movie. And I was like, what? Just and they just came in the last segment of the movie,
Mm.
and they quickly vanished and they lost the fight. And I was like, what just happened?
Uh.
What I mean, you have such good actors. You have Daniel
Mm,
Craig, you have Harrison Ford, you have Paul Dano, and you are
mm,
like wasting their talent. There was nothing in the movie, there was nothing, and then you
mm,
name the movie Cowboys versus Aliens for the last 15 minutes.
mm,
And I was like, no, I think that was the worst movie that I saw in
mm,
a theater. And that movie released in, I think, 2010 or 2011. I
mm.
still remember it, that this was the worst film that I have ever seen. That no, nothing can come close to it.
See, I find that quite interesting. I've not personally seen Cowboys versus Aliens. I've it's one that's kind of intrigued me a little bit over the years, but I've never like gone out of my way to watch it. But I do find that interesting because the general consensus at the time was that it was, decent or good. But I did hear a few people every now and then kind of go, "It's really stupid." um, but no, that is definitely that is definitely one. To be honest, I completely forgot about the film until you mentioned it. Yeah, God blimey, I forgot Cowboys versus Aliens was a thing. And especially consider, like you said, there is a massive cast in that, and it's directed by John Favreau, I think, who did
John
Iron
Favreau,
Man.
yes.
Yeah, God, you've just brought back a cool memory there. So, on a slightly more positive note, to kind of round things off, this is a question that I like hearing. Every time I ask this question, I get very different responses, and for different, like for personal different reasons. And I don't, so far out of the 3 episodes I've done, I don't think I've had anyone like have the same choices, which I think is
Okay.
quite interesting as well. But my second to last question is: if you were stranded on a desert island, and you could only choose 5 films to have with you, what 5 films are you choosing and why?
Okay, five. Five. Okay, I think the first movie would be The Godfather Part Two, just because
Yeah.
how the movie is made, the storytelling, the acting,
Mm,
everything is just perfect. And I think if I am stranded on an island, I don't
mm,
want to get scared. I think that would keep me
mm,
in good shape. That movie. Second would be, I think that is one of the movies that people don't talk about it, that talk about much. That's Lady Bird. I
mm,
love,
mm,
absolutely love that movie. And I think it was one of the most underrated movies of that year, and also one
mm.
of the most underrated movies of this generation. People don't actually talk about it much. and
Yeah.
and when it was nominated for an Oscar, and I was truly rooting for that movie to win, because
Mm,
the storytelling was good, the acting was good, the cinematography was good, but most importantly, the way
mm,
it showed certain characters
mm,
was absolutely amazing and brilliant. And I think people should watch this movie. If they haven't watched it, it is also a movie that will make you realize about, about certain things you love, certain things you lose, and
mm,
everything. So that's one movie that I would be happy to have, on a stranded island. And number three, if it's allowed, that would be
mm.
like Lord of the Rings trilogy. That
Yeah.
is, I think, for me, that is one movie that I can watch. That is one trilogy that I can watch anytime. I
Mm,
have watched it like every time it comes on TV. I watch it. Even when my parents scold that you watched it yesterday, but I was like, no,
mm,
I can watch it today as well. That's one trilogy that I truly like, and I would love to
mm,
have. And number four would be either it would be an Indian movie, or it will be like a movie
mm.
like, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah.
I think I don't need to say anything about that
Yeah.
movie. Everything about that movie is like perfectly, from the cast to the story to everything. It it
Mm.
has it has been done perfectly. And number five would be Interstellar, I think.
Okay.
Interstellar for its sheer scope and,
Mm,
the emotional weight, and it also, I think I would also cry, just like Matthew McConaughey cried,
mm,
seeing his daughter, and I will be remembering my family. Okay, I am stranded, and I will like,
mm.
okay, I will also cry a lot. I will see everything. So that would be one movie that I would take take with me. So these are the
Mm.
five movies. Now you say, out of these five movies, how many people have named these movies?
You're the first to name all 5 of them, actually, as far as I remember. Um, and I find it that's this. I mean, it's why I love asking this question because, like, for example, Sarah in the first episode, she chose 5 films that were a bit odd if you put them together, but like they meant something to her. Like I think she had the
Hmm.
original Scream, and then Disney's The Sword in the Stone from
Okay.
1970 something or other. So like there were some personal picks for her, and then you go to like Reese's choices, and the majority of those were comedies because he wanted like 5 films that were like heartwarming and funny and humorous and heartfelt. And I think with your choices, you've definitely gone for 5 that impacted you. And I mean, that's why I love asking this question. I just love seeing what people answer with because you could go many different routes for
And
it.
what I think Sarah and Reese,
Mm,
that's what one thing that makes us, that makes me different
Mm.
to Reese or Sarah, because
Mm.
they have been, they have grown up watching a
Mm.
lot of Hollywood movies. Like
Mm.
they have seen every bit of it. Just like you just said, The Sword and the Stone.
Yeah.
I haven't actually heard about it. Now I've heard
Okay.
it about the first time, and I might watch it as well.
Mm.
So when we started watching movies, or the kind of movies that we
Mm.
we saw.
Yeah.
So these are the only movies that we had access to. I
Mm.
mean, if you are seeing that I had movies like Lady Bird or
Mm.
Interstellar, which are pretty much new. They are not like coming from the 1960s or
Mm.
1970s, because at that time I was not born also, but
Yeah.
we did not have access to such movies, such vast catalog of movies. So we just saw movies if we liked it, and if
Mm.
it created an impact on us, so it
Mm.
just resonated with us. So that's why you see
Mm.
movies like Lord of the Rings, or because it created a massive
Mm.
impact on my mind and heart.
No, I definitely agree with you there, and I suppose out of the episodes I've done so far, the choices that yours are similar to is Matty's,
Okay.
because he went for not necessarily classics, but he chose again 5 films that were important to him. And there are a couple films that, though they're tonally different, I feel like they're in the same ballpark. Like you went with Interstellar, he went with Blade Runner 2049, and I think he went for the original Halloween as well. So like he's got that. You've got Godfather 2. You've got like 2 classics in there.
Hmm.
And one thing I really like about your picks, specifically Interstellar and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, is that like I like for the situation that the question puts up, you've picked 2 films that have got brilliant rewatch value.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
love the fact that you've gone for those 2, because if you're going to be stuck on a desert island, you need something you
Yes.
can you can watch multiple times.
Yes.
But I'm really glad you picked Eternal Sunshine, because I've been waiting for someone to pick that, because it's an extraordinary bit of filmmaking.
Yes.
And I know there's a couple people that I've got in mind for like future episodes that I was thinking they would say it, but like I'm glad you've been the first to say it, because I know as soon as you've said that, there's going to be now like a line of people that are just going to say it. But yeah, I love those choices, Lady Bird.
I think I'm waiting for that time, when this movie also, has gets a screening to a in a kind of festival kind of thing in
Mm.
India, because there are a lot of classics that have come to Indian festivals, like The Godfather came,
Yeah.
Jurassic Park came, and everything. I mean,
Mm.
a lot of classics that that were shown in a lot of festivals here. So I
Mm.
have been, sometimes there is a form that you can, you can write on, that what movie that you would want to see in this. Every time I have
Mm.
wrote this Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind,
Yeah.
but I don't know if any other people are writing about it or not, because it never got selected.
Mm. That's a massive shame, because they're really missing out on that.
Yes.
Ah, that's a shame. So to round things off, a light, easy question to finish things off with: are there any films left in the year? Considering we're halfway through the year now, what films are there left of 2023 that you're excited for?
Okay, so one of the movies that comes to the top of the mind is obviously Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. So
Mm.
because the a lot of things are great in that movie, because the trailers that we have seen are mind blowing. The kind of reception it received during the Cannes was really great, and the kind of people that are involved
Mm.
in this project. Martin Scorsese directing it. Then you have a stellar cast. People like Robert De Niro, Leonardo DiCaprio, Lily Gladstone acting in
Mm.
that. That's one of the movies that I have been waiting for a long time, and also it will be interesting to see Martin Scorsese directing a western
Mm.
drama, because he hasn't directed a western drama before. and it will be good to see him, taking all the elements from other Western classics, just like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and all the Quentin Tarantino movies that we have seen
Mm,
in recent past. So yeah, it will be exciting to see a
mm,
man of his stature and at
mm,
this age going to direct a different genre. So that
mm,
will be exciting to see. Then secondly, I think I'm excited for The Killer, David
mm,
Fincher's, and the kind of movies that he has given us, or like The Social Network or the series Mindhunter. So I'm pretty much excited for it, but I'm
mm,
also a little skeptical because recent movies that we have seen starring Michael Fassbender have not been so
mm,
good. So I'm pretty much like I'm keeping my fingers crossed that Michael Fassbender, because I like
mm.
his acting. I love him, because so I would love to see him in a movie that actually works.
So, that it's been great talking to you, Ayush. It's been really interesting hearing your perspectives on things. Feel free now just to go mental with letting people know where they can find you on different social medias. Just go for it.
That's the hardest part. So so it was a pleasure talking to Aaron. We have already, we have been in touch with each other through Twitter groups, or film critics groups, or Twitter and everything. He loved the videos. Congratulations on 1,000 subs.
Thank you very
It's
much.
amazing work. So where now, if guys want to, find me, if they want to talk to me about movies, they can find me on Instagram with the username Diary of a Cinephile. So this is something new that I've started, and I have been trying to do it, but I was not getting the time to focus on this my passion project kind of thing. So I've now started a page on Instagram, Diary of a Cinephile. They can follow that. They can just talk to me there. They can tell me. They can even give me recommendations that I should watch this movie. I should review this movie. So they can just follow me there, and they can just talk to me about anything. Even if they don't want to talk about movies, they can talk about anything.
Cool. So yeah, feel free to check out Ayush's Instagram. I think it is, even though he's only just recently started it and he's only got a couple videos on that Instagram page, I love pretty much everything you've been doing on it so far, especially that review of the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp documentary, because I didn't know it existed until I saw your review, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to avoid that one because apparently it's pretty bad. But yeah, please do check out Ayush's Instagram. I'll also leave a link to that and his Twitter and everywhere you can find him down in the description below. I hope you all enjoyed this episode of For the Love of Film, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.